Welcome back to Computer Science Cafe. I'm Jane, and during the next 5 minutes I am going to take you through using for loops in Python. If you are new to this channel, please support us by clicking like and subscribe, and I hope these tutorials help guide you in your learning journey. There are many times that you will want to repeat a piece of code. This is where loops come in. Let's dive in and take a look at for loops. Starting with this first example of a basic for loop. For I in range brackets 5 close brackets colon, which means then do. Then you will see when I press enter, the next line is automatically indent, spaced in from the left. This indent is what tells Python what is inside of the loop. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. For loop statements begin with the keyword for. Then after this is a special variable, which represents the count of loops done. This will start at 0. You will often see I is used for this variable, but you can use any variable you want. However, number or count would be sensible variable names to use. Where possible, I suggest you stick with I. This is short for index and is common practice. Then we have in range, followed by the parameters for the range we want to loop through. In this example, we will simply loop 5 times. We then have the colon, which means then do. Underneath this, anything that is indent is inside the for loop. In this example, we just have one line, which is print I. You can see the outcome of this is that 0 to 4 is printed. Remember, computers start to count from 0. Let's do some more for loops. This time, instead of printing I, let's print fish. When we run this program, you can see that fish is printed 5 times. Expanding on this, we could give each fish a number using the loop counter valued represented with I. So print brackets I, comma, speech marks, fish, close speech marks, close brackets, and run. And voila, we can see 0 fish, 1 fish, and so on. But let's make this even better by skipping the 0. Let's firstly give further parameters in the range of numbers to loop. This time I wanted to print 1 to 5, so in the brackets put 1, 6. Remember, the last value is not included. Then print this, and yes, that's much neater. Before moving on to part 2, I will just show you how to write a quick times table program using for loops. First, let's delete this, then we can ask the user what times tables they want to view. So create a new variable. I will call mine num, then make it equal an integer, and then allow a user input. Give the user a prompt within a string, and then we are ready for the loop. Oops, I dropped the bracket. I will fix it in a second. So for I in range, I will do 1 to 11 to show 1 to 10 times tables. Okay, let's put this bracket back. We have to close 2 brackets because we opened 2 brackets. Okay, now the colon, and ensure the next line is indent inside the loop. Now let's print the outcome of the times tables in a nice user-friendly statement by concatenating values. So I comma, speech marks, then X to represent the multiplication sign, the comma and the variable num to show the number the user entered, then comma and speech marks with an equal sign to make this look neat, and finally comma and in its own brackets the calculation, I times num. Okay, we can now run this program to test. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see. 3 and boom, here we have the 3 times tables displayed neatly from 1 to 10, all done in just 3 lines of code. Awesome, that's part 1 done. I will leave you a coding challenge at the end, and before we start part 2, please support us by clicking like and subscribe. First, let's delete this for I in range loop, and then we will take a look at a for I in loop. To see how this type of loop works, I will create a variable to hold a password. Let's call this variable password, and this can be QWERTY. Then we can use the loop to check some details of the password. So, this time, for I in brackets, password, close brackets, colon. And again, when I press enter, you can see the next line is indent. For now, print the value of I, and we can see what is happening. The loop will iterate through the QWERTY 1, 2, 3, and on the first loop I will be Q, and then the second loop I will be W, and so on. When we run this, we can see that each letter is printed on a separate line, so we know the value of I changed each time the loop repeated. Okay, now putting some skills into practical use, I will expand on this program by using an if statement to see if the password contains any special characters. In this example, I will keep it simple and just look to see if it contains a hashtag. Oops, that 9 should be a bracket. I will change that in a second. So here is my print statement for if the password does contain a hashtag, and I will not print anything if the password does not contain a hashtag. Now running this program, we can see nothing is printed because there is not a hashtag in the password. Now let's add a hashtag to the password and run the program again. And bam! We can see it has worked and printed the string in the if statement. Okay, I will do one more task with this for loop. I will use the loop to count how many characters are in the password. So firstly, setting up a count variable and assigning it the value of 0. We can then add 1 to this count every time the loop iterates. After this, dropping back out of the loop by moving back 1 indentation level. This is how Python knows that this statement is not in the loop and the loop has finished. And we can see that this has worked, and the password has 10 characters. Lastly, making this a little neater by concatenating a string with the count value. And beautiful, this works. Next, I will leave you with a coding challenge. Awesome job! In the next video, we will look at while loops. To help your progress, you are welcome to use the complimentary worksheet material on the website. And I hope you enjoy learning to code. Please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. And now to the for loop coding challenge.
Each skateboarder has 3 runs and are scored out of 10. The 3 scores are added together. Can you create a program using a for loop to keep the score? 1. Ask the user their name and store in a variable. 2. Using a for loop, ask the user to enter each score. 3. Each time a score is entered, add the score to a subtotal variable. 4. After all 3 scores are entered in the for loop, drop out of the loop and output the total score in a user-friendly string.